no need really to charge customers or merchants for the UPI service. They've said that if service providers need to find ways to augment their income, there have to be other means. So what exactly are those other means? And can UPI's free run, quote unquote, last forever? Is that a sustainable business model, or is this something that an economy like India should consistently invest in? The other big question, of course, is on whether this in a sense skews the level playing field for other players coming in with payment systems. And will this really give rise to innovation? So a lot to unpack today, and helping us do that are Mythili Bhusnurmath, consulting editor ET Now, D.K Mittal, former banking secretary, joining us on the show, Deepak Shenoy, founder Capital Mind, with us today, as is Mandar Agashe, founder and MD of Sarvatra Technologies. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us on the India Development Debate. Mr. Mittal, let me begin with your views on this debate. Charge or no on UPI? Of course, it's a moot debate because the finance ministry has made it clear there will be no charges. But do you think that this can continue as the norm for the long term?
So, thank you for asking me this question. I think it depends upon how we look at it. One side is the banks, the other side is the customer, and third side is those who want to create a business out of it. These are three different aspects, and everybody has its own validity. Now, in terms of banks, if they were to pay this much of cash out to their branches, that would have been a huge cost, so they're very happy. And to clarify, it is not free to banks. They still pay to NPCI and they still pay to UIDI. So it's not something free to them. But then the cost of that is much less than what they will have to spend to dispense out this much of cash. To customer, I think it's a great facility. It's a great facility. And it is unparalleled in world. What has been done by India is no country in the world is close to that. And they won't be doing it easily also. They can't come closer to that. Now, third is the question of charging the money to the customer and then making a business model, which has been done in most of the Latin American countries, most of the African countries, and even the developed countries. Now, is that a question for us to ask? Do we need to do that? My take would be perhaps no. Because of UPI being free, today, see, it is not a transaction which rich can do. It is only a transaction which the poor and marginalized persons can do. Not the rich are prohibited, they can also do, but their propensity to use is much lower. They use internet banking and other methods which are available there. So for those persons who are using it 500, 200, 100 rupees charging, or maybe 1,000 rupees charges, and there's a cap on that, what every bank hooks up. So I think it's a great facility which India has done. It is helping in financial inclusion. And because of in COVID times, it has been a great leveler for everybody to get money and payment. So my take would be, India should never put any charges on UPI. RTGS and NEFT have been made free, which is a great thing from the money transaction, because banks, in any case, have to incur costs which are much higher than what they are paying today by making these services free. That's my take on this.
The point that you've made, let me get Mandar Agashe onto this, that the poor use UPI more than the rich. Is that truly the case? Because it seems like everybody uses UPI. Poor, rich, whether the sums are small, large, is just easy. And maybe the fact that it's free contributes to it, but also because it rides upon pretty much any platform. And it's quick and it's efficient. Isn't those some of the reasons? And do you think that there is a clear distinction in who exactly uses the service?
Yes, I think Sarvatra has luckily the vision to see it across India, because 50% of all banks in India use our platform. And what we have seen, it is not the rich and poor divide, it is the ticket size divide. So if anybody wants to pay up to 1,500 rupees, they are using UPI. And any transactions above 1,500, typically people prefer debit card or credit card. So today UPI has become ubiquitous, right from urban to semi-urban to rural, and everyone is using it. And as Mittal sir said, that it has really revolutionized the payments in the country, and it has made India very proud that it's the only system like this in the world. So definitely it has helped the poor, but now even the rich find it the most easy to use. So it's now being used by everyone. And I think UPI will continue to grow. at the speed that it is growing.
Sure,
with
but the
more
question at hand today is not really whether it will grow at the speed it is growing. Of course it will. The question is not whether, India has made a great achievement. I think there's no question there. The question is whether it can continue to be free after everything that it has achieved. If the purpose was to get people used to digital transaction, what happens once that is served, Mandar?
So it will, I think, continue to be free because since UPI is completely new, the business model which will emerge, which will be beneficial for the banks, will be totally different from a typical MDR-based or transaction fee-based model, which was more popular with credit card and debit cards. The reason is now, earlier people used to say use cash more. So they'll go at an ATM, withdraw cash, then they'll spend it the way they want to over the month. But now they are, instead of that, spending using UPI. So banks have far more data about their own customer and their usage. So they can cross-sell amazing products to their own customers.
Oh, wow.
And where the revenue will come for the banks is what I feel. They need not make money from MDR and transactions.
I just got a shiver down my spine, Deepak. When something is free, you are the product. Is that what is happening with UPI? I've seen you today, one of the clear proponents that it's free, it should remain free. Can it remain free, or is this what we're going to see? That if I use the service at no cost, beyond a point, all of my data and where I'm using these payments becomes fodder for these companies to sell?
Not for companies.
Deepak, the question's to Deepak. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Hi, Tamanna. I think, here's where it gets complicated. Your data is always available to too many people. We just make a big deal of this data thing. Everybody knows, people know too much about you. They don't care enough. Okay. That's the problem, really. So I think we should avoid thinking of it that way. But who pays? Sorry. Am I interrupting you?
Yeah, no, I can hear you. Please continue.
So, yeah. So, I think your data in this overall sequence of things is the smaller part of this equation. Banks will get to know what you spend on regardless. We run a PMS, then people give us checks to invest in the PMS, the bank managers call people and say, why are you investing in Capital Mind? We have something else. I can't complain that the data is off. It's there, it's being shared, people know about it. That's not, I think, an argument for or against UPI, but I think here's the other part. I think though banks get a special privilege, they get to keep our money, and they get to keep our money because literally the agreement is, and this is an unsaid agreement, but the agreement is I can take my money out anytime I want. And if you violate that agreement, then I will keep my money in cash and I won't put that money into the bank. Right. So this is a problem. You have to create this trust, and that's why people will trust their money to the banking system. What do banks do? Banks have 170 lakh crores sitting inside them. Out of this, 17 lakh crores sits in current accounts. This is 17 lakh crores on which the banks gives you 0% interest across the system. Now, you could say, add this here and there. Banks can park money today at 4 or 5%, 5.15% actually, with the RBI. That's the minimum. That's 85,000 crores they can earn. They have to pay you nothing. How much does NPCI spend per year on everything that it does? 600 crores. We're talking 85,000 crores of savings because you're allowed to keep afloat, versus an expense that NPCI spends on everything that it does, not just UPI. They do the NEFT, they do check things and a bunch of other things as well. And all of that together, they spend 600 crores. And by the way, they earn 1,200 crores. So they're a very, very profitable organization. So I think here the system should bear the cost simply because they are allowed by law to keep float. And here's the banking system that has it. And therefore, banking system has always borne the charges for checks. When you gave checks, you never paid anything extra, right? So other than for outstation, but local checks were always free. Getting cash from your bank account was always free. If banks bore that cost, why can't they bear the cost? That tiny 500, 600 crores across the entire banking system for UPI. And the government is also, by the way, paying another 1,600, 1,700 crores on top of this right now. That would still be a fraction, a rounding error in the overall, revenues of the banking system to be able to bear this for saving massive savings on cash transactions otherwise.
Mythili, the question is also of level playing field, isn't it? Why should only RuPay debit cards and UPI attract no charges while other payment systems do?
Well, Tamanna, I'm of the belief that nothing should be free and everybody should bear some cost. To my mind, the best comparison is that with patents in the pharma industry. No doubt, if you had no patents at all in pharma, drugs would be very cheap, access would be far wider than it is. But what is the flip side to that? You would find no money being invested in R&D, you would have no innovation. Similarly, in the case of UPI or any other kind of payment system, if you did not levy some kind of a charge which makes it viable and incentivizes people to innovate, then you would not see the innovation that is necessary to improve the state of affairs. So, which is why the RBI's paper has very rightly pointed out, and I quote, in any economic activity, including the payment system, there does not seem to be any justification for a free service. This is very important because there is a cost. Nobody is denying that there's no cost. So the question is, should it be free? Should it not be free? And the comparison to my mind is exactly like it is with patents in the pharma sector. If you didn't have a cost and there is a cost, and if you refuse to levy it and somebody is bearing it, there will be no incentive for innovation. You would not see any competition. And I think Deepak spoke about NPCI's profit. Let us not forget that to develop the UPI, NPCI spent a great deal of money. So the profits are now coming after it has first spent that money. So I think it would be wrong to say that UPI should be completely free. Yes, you can have a graded system of payment whereby for transactions up to a certain level, which caters to the poor or the lower middle class, you could have a lower fee, but nothing I think should be free except I would say things like primary education, primary healthcare. Otherwise, you would not have innovation, you would not have development.
Deepak, you want to come in on that?
Oh yes, we've had it free all this while. There's been so much innovation. Why does not have innovation? We've had it free for how many years now? And so much has been innovated on the NPCI platform, on UPI itself. I don't think having it free forever would
but
not...
someone paid for it. It wasn't free.
I would like to intervene.
Someone paid for it. Okay, Mythili wants to come in. Yes.
Yes, it is not that it was free. The shareholders of NPCI were putting in money. So let us not pretend nothing in this world, even air is not free because we're paying, if there's an opportunity cost, we're breathing polluted air precisely because we don't want to spend to keep the air free. So let us be very clear, however cliched it may sound, there is absolutely no free lunch.
Okay, you made that point. Let Deepak just continue.
Yeah, I'll just finish this. NPCI has not made a loss. You can check the past records and you can check how much it's invested and how much profits it makes right now. It doesn't pay tax.
I'm not saying it's made a loss. It would have made a higher profit, but for the fact that it was free.
But it's okay.
Let us be very clear. Let us be very clear. The profits flow to government's exchequer. Similarly, in the case of banks, when banks pick up the tab, less money is because we're talking primarily of a system which is public sector oriented. In a public sector banking system, primarily run by the public sector banks, lower profits mean lower dividend to the government. So as I repeat, however cliched it may sound, there is absolutely no free lunch.
Yeah, we got that point. Sure, we got that point. Let Deepak come in with his response, and then I'm coming to you, Mr. Mittal. This debate's getting interesting. Yes, Deepak.
Yeah. So here's the thing. It may be that somebody invests based on some profits on somewhere else. That is exactly how the banking system works. You subsidize one part of the organization based on something else. The banking system has always worked on this. The RBI has said you need to give agricultural loans at low cost. Why would banks do that? Because they're allowed to give high cost loans somewhere else. One part of the banking system subsidizes another. That's why it's an enormously profitable enterprise. And therefore, our RBI has earlier said NEFT charges need to be free. They have promoted NEFT. That's because NEFT allows float to come into the banking system, which is why banking system gets the float they do. And therefore, they are allowed that chance to make the money on float. Why can't anybody else? Why was PayPal banned from having float from the country? Because they're not allowed to earn float unless they're in a bank.
It is not a licensed bank. The promoters are not found fit and proper.
It's not about that at all. It was never about fit and proper. It was about float.
Let me get Mr. Mittal come in. He's been waiting very patiently to make his point. Yes, sir.
So I think, though I generally agree with Mythili, but here is one point to disagree strongly. See, in this whole debate, the question is whether we should make UPI free. It is not free. If you are going to charge me, you're going to change the terms of trade against the customer. Today, I can go to branch and take cash without any limit, without paying any charge. How can you jolly well ask me to pay money? There's no question. I don't think the debate is right on that point. Banks are supposed to pay you cash without charging money. Are you going to say that when I go to cash counter, I charge the same money? I draw lakh of rupees, 2 lakh rupees as a business out, nothing is charged to me. So I do not think that debate is correct. Secondly, we have to look at the whole banking system as such. We can't look at one service. NPCI is being paid, I said in the very beginning. So there's no free lunch. Banks are paying for that, and they're paying in a jolly good way. Because ultimately the cost for them to a branch to cash out is much higher. Even the cashed out through an ATM is much higher. So if banks are not happy, then who is unhappy? I do not know who is unhappy. Banks are not complaining about it. Who is complaining about it? And why are they complaining about it? Customers are not complaining about it. Where is the complaint coming from? So I feel very annoyed about it. As somebody is asking to start levying a charge. Why? It is a service being provided to everybody's use. And as it was said, even the rich can use it. But still, I maintain propensity of use is by those who are not that well off. It is great ease to them. Ask those questions, how much benefit it has accrued to them, their families, when they can access this money like this. This and APS has transformed the banking system for the poor. These are the two transformative changes in India. So I strongly disagree that this service is not free. If you're going to charge me, you're changing terms of trade against me. You are totally stopping financial inclusion. Today, I can do and use money sitting at home.
No, okay, the argument is 1 minute. The argument is that if you charge for UPI, you push people back towards cash. Because if I can get cash for free, why would I pay for the convenience? The difference is that there is a massive convenience. I don't have to stand in a line, go to my branch, withdraw money and then hold it. So I'm paying, so the differential is convenience. But if I start charging for that, a lot of people will go back to cash because they'd rather not pay anything. Mythili, is that something we need to keep in mind when we're speaking about a free service in our context?
Absolutely not, Tamanna, because as you mentioned, there is a cost involved of going to the bank, of depositing money, and you cannot withdraw 1 lakh of rupees. No bank will allow you to withdraw in cash, Mr. Mittal. They have very strict money laundering rules on how much cash you can withdraw. So for a business transactions, you have to do online transactions. And as I said, the best example is of patents in the pharma industry. Why have we recognized a need for patent? Simply because if you did not have patents, nobody would spend money on R&D, nobody would innovate. So though it does increase the price of drugs, you think it is a necessary evil. Just take a simple example of mobile phones. Look at the spread of mobile phones. Are mobile phones free? Not at all. But the cost of telephony, the spectrum charges, the cost of telephone calls has come down. So every poor person almost in this country, and I repeat, almost every poor person in the country has a mobile phone simply because he sees the utility of a mobile phone. Similarly, when people realize the utility of UPI, they will be willing to pay a price. I'm not saying that you have an exorbitant price, but you have to have a price which is graded depending on the level of
who is this going to help? Who is charging this going to help? Is this going to help banks? If that is the case, do they really need the money? You talked about this as a parallel to innovation in the pharma sector. So what kind of innovation is this going to create which isn't already there?
See, the RBI paper talks about the fact that all the parties to a payment system transaction incurs a cost of roughly 2 rupees for every 800 rupees. So multiply that by the number of transactions that you have. So let us not pretend that there is no cost. There is a cost. Now, whether the cost manifests as lower profits, in the case as in a banking system that is largely public sector oriented, it means less profit for public sector banks. It means less profit for NPCI, hence less money for them to innovate, to spend in bringing out newer and newer forms of digitization. Agreed, there's a huge benefit to the spread of the digital economy, but there is a cost. The question is who bears that cost? And that is what it must decide, not to make it free, but simply, as I said, make it so valuable and make it such a reasonable cost that people happily pay for it because of the convenience.
Your argument is still not correct because the simple fact is NPCI is not complaining, banks are not complaining. Who is complaining? I'm asking this question. Has NPCI complained? No. Let me complete. NPCI has not said, despite the fact that they are being paid by the bank. So there is no free lunch. Nobody is stopping them to innovate, and they are innovating regularly. We must compliment NPCI for wonderful work. Banks are not complaining because they know if all these customers are going to come to their branches, ATM, they will not be able to service them. So who is complaining? I don't know.
Mr. Mittal, it's not a question of complaint. The question is, should any service be rendered free?
No, that's
And
not
that is
correct.
a fundamental question.
That's
All
not
right, all
correct.
right.
I
Let
don't think
Mandar Agashe come in. He's been listening
that
quietly.
argument is
Mandar,
correct.
are you going to
So,
bolster
yes.
Mythili's argument, or are you on the same side as D.K Mittal and Deepak Shenoy?
I think I'm on the side of it should be free. Only reason being that not everything is free definitely means it's not a good commercial thing. So take when the internet came in, when Google was there, search was free, YouTube came in, videos were free, WhatsApp came, messaging was free. Still, they are thriving organizations. They created a different business model. Similarly, will happen here. So here today, instead of accepting cash, I see merchant accepting QR code. That means they're keeping more balance in their account, which is a current free float for the banks from where they can make money somewhere else by lending it at a higher cost. Similarly, I have seen that earlier people used to withdraw money from their account. Instead of that, now they're keeping more and more float into their accounts because they want to use UPI. And to use UPI, they don't know when they will need to use it. So they are, instead of having 1,000 rupees balance in their account, now they're having 10,000 and 20,000. This is all low cost deposits to the banks, and banks can then lend it to the good customers and good money out of that. And they can afford to subsidize UPI definitely if it is creating float, because today banks to get low cost float have to spend so much on marketing. UPI is giving them free plus giving amazing service to their customers. So today it is how it was earlier, digital divide. Today it has become UPI divide. Banks who don't have UPI are falling behind compared to banks who have UPI. It is becoming more and more of that. So I think this free or not
When
free
will the
is
next
actually,
innovation come from if nobody is paying for this service?
it's
Mandar,
not.
No,
let me intervene.
No,
It's being paid.
that's what
All
Mr.
right,
Mittal
one by
is
one, one by one,
correct.
one by one.
There is nothing
Mandar
free.
first.
Somebody's paying for it.
It's
Somebody's
being
paying.
paid. It's being paid.
Okay, so banks are paying for it. Banks are paying for it. They
Correct.
need
Banks
to
are
pay.
paying
They
for it
need
and
to
they're
pay for
making
it
money
because
from
it gives
the
them a lot
yeah.
of benefit. It's not really free.
Absolutely.
It's fine as long as the end customer doesn't pay. Mythili, do you concede on that argument? We've
I
wrapped
have
this
two
3
issues.
versus 1.
No, I have two issues on what Mandar said. Mandar said Google is free, WhatsApp is free. Does it really believe WhatsApp and Google are free? What is the price that we are paying in terms of the invasion of our privacy?
Yeah.
The fact that Google knows every step I take, every move I make, etc., etc. So let us not pretend that Google or WhatsApp is free. I'm sorry, we pay a huge price.
Yeah.
The data mining that is done by these companies is what makes them one of the most profitable companies. So let us not fool ourselves. As I said, nothing is free. And if that is so, and if banks are getting benefit, Mandar, I'd like to ask, why don't you leave it to the banks to decide? Some bank might want to give free at service, some may not. Why should government intervene, and why should any third party intervene and mandatorily say that this should be free? It is not one of the 10
Okay,
commandments.
Mythili, just one counter. If UPI was not a free service, would it have been as widely adopted?
No.
It would have been, even if you charge a low price. As I said, look at telecom.
Not now. I'm not talking about today. When it started.
Even when it started, because look at telecom. As I said,
Okay.
take the example of telecom industry.
So Mythili
Why
saying it
won't
would have
people
not made a
come to
difference. I have to wrap, so I'm going to take a quick poll all round on this. Deepak, you're saying if UPI had been charged from day one, would it have seen the same success just based on convenience and experience?
Did you know IMPS was available at 5 rupees per transaction from 2011? Where did it go? UPIs are based on the back of the same IMPS, which continues to be charged at 5 rupees per transaction today by most banks. It has no relevance. It is the same immediate transaction that you can do tuck from this thing that UPI provides, and it's not free. It has almost nothing in comparison. Of course, it is fairly large, but it's nowhere in comparison with UPI. UPI is 10 lakh crores. Credit cards and debit cards added together are what? About 1 lakh, 1,20,000 crores. UPI has gone to 10x of those. And I think the reason is that it is free. It is equivalent to cash, and cash is free. So UPI should be.
All right, we have to wrap this, but I'm sure we could continue for much longer. More people want to come in with their points. It's been a fascinating discussion, so I want to thank all of you for shedding light on this very important topic. But one point I think we need to highlight is free or not free, whether the government is subsidizing it or the banks are paying for it, if there is going to be a claim on data generated by those using UPI for transactions, that should be known, it should be transparent. Let this not become another source of data mining that nobody has any control over. On that note, I want to thank all of you for joining us on this leg of the debate.
Thank you.